I want to say something about 2 weeks ago. I was in London for this gathering where the Templeton Foundation gave out this Templeton Prize to the Dalai Lama. And one distinguishing feature of this prize is that Templeton always wanted the amount, the dollar amount, to be always significantly higher than the Nobel amount.
Right.
So after the conversion, basically the Dalai Lama 2 weeks ago received a check for 1.8 million US dollars. And what was interesting to me was that, that 1.8 million, that's a lot of money. And he immediately gave it all away. I think some of you may know about that. He gave away $1.5 million to Save the Children organization to help Indian kids who are malnourished.
Yes.
And so on. He basically gave every cent of it away. Now, I'm quite intrigued by that because I know that Robert also knows another instance during which the Dalai Lama received the Nobel Prize in 1989. And I would like you to say a little bit about that particular incident.
Well, at that time, a group of us, a man named Tenzing Tetong, who you all know here in Vancouver because his uncle lives in Victoria and is a Canadian and used to be the foreign minister of the Tibetan government in exile, T.C. Tetong. That's the uncle of Tenzing Tetong. And Tenzing Tetong was the officer at the Dalai Lama's office in New York City. At the time, he got the Nobel Peace Prize. And we all went to Oslo, those of us who had nominated His Holiness for that. We were all thrilled about it. And at that time, the Nobel Peace Prize was worth $660,000 was the dollar amount of the Nobel Prize at that time. I think it's reached $1 million now, but not as big as the Templeton, but it's reached $1 million, more than $1 million. And so we had this idea, which I think Tenzing Tetong takes credit for rightfully, of having something called the Dalai Lama Foundation for Universal Responsibility, because that's the central concept of the exchange of self and other, the Bodhisattva mind. When you become more truly altruistic and you take the vow to become enlightened for the sake of all beings, to save them from suffering, then you adopt an attitude which is called the attitude of universal responsibility, where one of the elements of the Bodhisattva mind is I'm responsible for all beings. I will take care of all of their suffering and all of this. And we all should be therefore responsible for each other rather than restricting our circle of responsibility. It's a very central concept of Dalai Lama's teaching. So we had this idea, and then Tenzing La thought we could get the Aga Khan and some other people to match that and create a really good fund, a few $1 million, nothing of Warren Buffett or Bill Gates scale in those days, but something solid. And then the Dalai Lama could do projects that he'd like to do with that fund, And so this was the plan. And then the Dalai Lama, the minute he got back to Delhi with the check in his hot little hand, he immediately wrote a check for $450,000 to a friend of his who was a head of the one of the Gandhian foundations, and who operated a lepers children's school in Lucknow, India, that the Dalai Lama had visited and been very impressed with the way they were treating the children and teaching them and helping them try to overcome their... I don't remember if at that time there was a cure for leprosy available, or maybe there wasn't quite a cure, but whatever it was, but also educating them and teaching them. And he gave $450,000 away, frustrating Tenzing Tetong's plan. And then I think he did let 200 go to the Foundation of Universal Responsibility, which then has functioned at a modest level ever since in New Delhi. And so that is he's like that. Another time he received $250,000 as a gift from the Australian committee that invited the Dalai Lama. And before he left Australia, he gave that money to an Aboriginal school for Aboriginal children in Northern Australia, at some reservation or whatever they call it there. So that's his typical thing, His Holiness. It's wonderful. And he was so excited about it, the Templeton thing. I wanted to recommend to you, I did that earlier today at an event we had. But I want to recommend to all of you that if you have a computer online and you go to windandlife.org, you can find there, I hope still there, a video of the Templeton Foundation ceremony in St. Paul's Chapel in London that Victor was at, because that's where His Holiness made that gift when in his speech. And he was so cute, I thought, in that there were some very nice speeches by the Archbishop of Canterbury and the Anglican minister of the St. Paul's Cathedral, and I think the Dean of Westminster Abbey, the three Christian guys who were praising His Holiness as a holy man. It was wonderful, very nice, sweet. And then the two guys from the Templeton gave very nice speeches about the meaning of giving this to His Holiness, having to do with being a holy person and a religious leader, but also talking to scientists and looking for the connection of religion and science and looking to avoid conflict between the world religion. And they were very, very much praising him for that, saying that's why we gave him the prize. And then His Holiness comes up to give his acceptance speech, and he's immediately grabbing at his secretary at a letter he had already written in which he's explaining his giving away the money, and he wanted to do that first. And then his attendant Takla, his secretary, no, Your Holiness, at the end of the talk, So, okay. So then he leaves the letter with the secretary, and then he gives a talk. And I just thought this talk, you should all listen to it. It's truly wonderful, the talk. But the main gist of the talk was, don't idolize me as like some holy Dalai Lama. I don't want that, because we're having a crisis in this world. And everyone has to exercise their compassion, and they have to do the best they can to be happy and to be kind, and etc. And he went on, but that like he does. You've heard him do that. But he was especially pushing the idea that it doesn't help to place your hope in some sort of eminent person or think that they're going to take care of the world problems. It doesn't help. It won't do it that way. You each have to do it, he said. You each have the ability. You have the kindness and the compassion. You're a human being. You can understand the need of other beings and empathy with them and so on. And he went on like that, I thought, very powerfully. And I was teasing him earlier today, and I will do it again.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh.
Because you were in the audience. I think that's particularly why he was saying, you better do something. If I'd been there, it would have been even worse. Because he knows I'm much lazier than you. But
that's debatable.
But it was just great. And if you have a chance to look at that, it takes you about 30, 40 minutes to watch that video.
See, Robert is not really being very mindful.
I'm not being mindful? That's not surprising, but what did I do?
Well, actually, as far as I know, there are two videos of that one day at St. Paul's Cathedral.
Oh.
So what Robert just said is one of them during the actual prize ceremony.
That's the one, I mean. Yeah.
But the other thing that he was not being very mindful of was the discussion at the St. Paul's Cathedral before the prize-giving ceremony.
I didn't see that.
And that was a discussion between Tempelton Prize was given to the Dalai Lama because of his contribution to both science and spirituality. So science is a very big part of that equation.